Hi, I'm Cynthia.
Charles Carroll.
My name is Luna Swassa.
My name is Isabel Sennett.
My name is Cindy Elizabeth Jean Georges.
Five people, six flaws. In our society, perfection and beauty for men and women is almost a must. It's what we see each day on TV, newsstands, and in social media. In this video, 5 people share their inspiring stories about what they believe are their flaws. It's important that we learn to love what is ours, even if it doesn't look like our perception of perfection. Doors of self-love and healing open wide when we embrace our full selves, flaws and all.
My definition of beauty is having something inside that shines out.
My definition of beauty is anyone who radiates a great amount of confidence who they are, they accept who they are, and that's just beautiful in itself.
I think of the old saying that beauty is only skin deep. That's not true. Beauty is in the soul. And that's how I see beauty. In terms of physical beauty, I've come to the conclusion that everyone has their beauty. That being alive and being a body, being a person, is beautiful. It's a grace. Most people don't realize it though. They don't acknowledge it, they don't see it in themselves. Very often it's related to feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. So the most beautiful people are those people who feel fulfilled and feel secure with themselves. A person could be physically ugly and very beautiful. A person could be physically beautiful and yet be extremely ugly inside in terms of their temperament, psyche, or any other instability.
So I'm just going to read you something that I wrote that talks about my flaw. Ever think of beauty as life or death? The scar that I carry is one that many women have. It's a scar that comes with evidence. Evidence that it was all well worth it. Evidence that they can feel, see, and touch. Unfortunately, for now, mine will remain just a scar. Without notice, on April 17, 2015, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. My open wound will remain open because 21 days later, on May 6, she passed. I hid myself within this scar because it is all that I have. It is my only reminder, the only one thing I can touch and all that I'll ever want to see, my keepsake. I'm Cynthia, and my flaw is my C-section scar. So if you don't know what the scar is, it's basically my story behind how I was pregnant and my husband and I thought we were going to have a great pregnancy because I was having a wonderful pregnancy. But unfortunately, 6 months to be exact, I had a bad headache and went into the hospital just as a routine checkup to make sure that everything was fine. But they ended up keeping me because my blood pressure was really, really high. Unfortunately, I had severe preeclampsia that caused her heart rate to fluctuate immensely. And about a couple of days later, on that Friday, so I went in on the hospital on Tuesday, and on that Friday, they took her out of me because they were okay with the fact that her heart rate was stable and I was stable at that point. And from that point forward, it was kind of a waiting game to see whether or not things would get worse or get better. And they did get better, but unfortunately they got worse also. And unfortunately I don't have her here with me to share a wonderful recovery story, but stay tuned. It'll come soon.
I have really two flaws. One is a habit, it's a physical habit, and it affects me physically, and that is smoking. And the other one is when I was a teenager, I got a couple of tattoos, and I've learned over time, and so over 40 years, that a lot of people don't like tattoos. And my last girlfriend was very sensitive about it, felt like it was redneck, and would even get upset if I took my shirt off at the beach. I don't think it influenced our relationship. The relationship lasted quite a while, 10 years. But it's a tension that I wish I had avoided with different people. But it's one that I could have easily avoided. They're on my back, and I don't see them, so I wouldn't miss them. I pondered having the tattoos removed, but actually, I don't like the look of the scarring that's left behind when they remove tattoos. So, at the same time that some people don't like the tattoos, there are many people who have admired them. And in my travels in Central America, for instance, where tattooing is not as sophisticated as it is here, and most tattoos are amateur, my tattoos were done professionally, and the kids and young people would marvel over them. And so I also think they're beautiful to some people, but it is something that I now wish I not regret, but wish that I had done without them.
My flaw is my weight. I've been overweight for all of my life, but I don't let it get the best of me. I embrace my flaw by just being myself. I don't let the negative connotations from society on being overweight get the best of me. I'm a confident plus-size woman, and I think that everyone should be more accepting of their flaws. No, I would never change my flaw.
My name is Isabel Sennett. So my flaw is my eczema. I've suffered eczema since the age of 4 years old. I just don't like the way that it looks when it's flared up. It gets really scratchy and itchy, and when people stare, it causes me to be insecure. And so it's one of those things where I've hid behind clothes all my life, and as I have gotten older and more mature, I've learned to just embrace my flaw, and it is a part of me. And as a Christian, I believe that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and so God thought that I was the best person to deal with this, and so I'm gonna rock it out. To be honest with myself, I'm learning to embrace it. There are days where I'm like, this looks a little bit disgusting. I don't want people to see me like this. But I've learned to just say, you know what, Isabel, this is you. It's fine. People don't see it. You're making it a big deal. Be comfortable. And so I'm learning to now throw on my bathing suit at the beach and not walk around with a little cover up. I've learned to just throw on those shorts without putting leggings under, or just, rocking out that dress, because no one is really looking at my skin. They're looking at me. And I have a good soul, and so that's what they see. They don't see the eczema. If I've ever met someone with eczema and they were really saddened by it, I would let them know that it's okay. You're human. It's a feeling, it's an emotion that you're gonna go through. But at the end of the day, it doesn't define who you are. Focusing on just being a good person, living life, being true to yourself is what's more important, and that it's going to shine through. so much so that no one's even going to be able to see your eczema.
Hi, my name is Cindy Jean Georges, and my flaws are the burns on my arms. Both of my arms. I realized that I was depressed when I was about 12, and I didn't really know how to cope with it at first, and as I got older I got more stressed and had a lot more teen angst, and I didn't really have any proper coping methods, or I didn't know how to access them, how to utilize them. So I started burning myself, self-inflicting burns onto both of my arms, as you can see. And sometimes I would cut, but burning was my main method because it was quick and it was easy. And that became my coping method for probably about 5 or 6 years, which is crazy to think about in retrospect because it just seemed like the longest period of my life. Looking back, it almost feels like I was doing it for my whole life, but it was just that short period of time. And I accumulated so many scars within that time that now I can consider flaws that contribute to my beauty now. Overcoming is such an interesting word when it comes to my story, or I think anybody's story of depression. It took a lot of pushing myself to accept myself, a lot of realization that I'm worth it, and that I'm not only enough, but that I'm more than enough, in Jesus' name. It took a lot of venting to people, venting to God, and really just taking a look in the mirror and asking myself if that was the road that I wanted to go down, and if that was the example that I wanted to set for my future children, for my friends, for my family. My goal my whole life has been to inspire, and I didn't want to live a lie and attempt to inspire people. Meanwhile, I couldn't inspire myself enough to realize that I'm worth it. And I think the beautiful thing about this thing called progress is that you can still slip and fall, but then when you get up, it's just a little bump in the road. You know what I mean? It's just a little nick in your story, and then you keep going. You know what I mean? Your progress doesn't automatically end just because you made a mistake. So in that, trying to make progress and trying to help myself realize that I'm good enough, sometimes I would slip, and I had to tell myself, well, it's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay, you're still good, you're still worth it. And time really does heal all when you realize that with time and that determination to be better, that you can heal yourself, you know what I mean? And a lot of prayer. So I can't say that I overcame it. I like to say that I'm overcoming it, and that my story is just constantly unfolding, and it's just being written every day. These burns, they don't define who I am, but they definitely contribute to who I am, who I've become, and I'm proud of myself for that. And I hope that anybody else who's going through it can be inspired by that. I think that advice that I would give to anybody who's dealing with self-harm or depression that causes self-harm is to remember that nobody's perfect, and that that's okay, and that you're worth it. We're all worth it, no matter what. And to not think of your cutting and your burning or whatever self-inflicted injury upon yourself. Don't think of that as something that makes you less of a person, or don't think of that as anything that makes you any less human than the next person, because it's not. And we really all have our flaws, and for people who self-harm, that just happens to be one of our flaws. But we're human, and we make mistakes, and then you get up and you say, I want to make progress, I want to be a better person, this is the person who I want to be, I'm going to work to become that person, and you just keep working to get towards that. And whether it be through venting to your friends, whether it be through prayer, through therapy, you know, work it out to where you can finally say, I'm okay with who I am. This is who I am. I don't have to hurt myself because I feel like I'm not enough, you know? And that's the advice that was given to me. That's the advice that I held on to. And I would give that to anybody else. And I would hope that it would touch them or inspire them in some way.
One thing that came to mind was John Keats' poem, Ode to a Grecian Urn. When I read it in high school, I took it at a very abstract level. But now, in my 60s, and you having asked the question, Valerie, I realize that it's not abstract at all. And the poem concludes with the line, beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all ye humans know on earth, and all ye need to know. And what I was trying to get at, talking about inner beauty versus outer beauty, is this idea by Keats that if you live in truth, and you have truth, and you know truth, and you speak and act and do truth, that is beautiful. And you can dress up a lie, but it is never beautiful. And I was thinking also about a very good friend of mine, the American writer James Baldwin, whom I knew for a couple of years before his death. And we were buddies, and I had interviewed him, and a friendship grew out of the interview. And he would talk a lot to me about race issues, because that was something he talked about a lot. He was very interested in race. And he turned to me once while we were having a drink, and he said, Charles, I'll do my best Jimmy Baldwin imitation. I said, yeah, Jimmy? And he goes, do you know what it's like to be a short, ugly, homosexual black man in America who is not athletic, has no rhythm, and cannot dance? As usual, Jimmy Baldwin would blow my mind on a regular basis, but that really blew my mind. But I had to disagree with one thing that he said, and that is that he was not ugly. Not even remotely or questionably or possibly ugly, because he was the truth. And he spoke the truth. And he was one of the most beautiful people I have ever known. And so that's an example of what I mean about inner truth pervading and projecting out of the form of the body, almost like an aura. And there is no doubt in my mind that this is the truth. And finally, I thought of William Carlos Williams, great American poet, and his great American poem, Patterson. And one of the sections in Patterson is called The Girl with the Broken Nose. And he had a patient, a regular patient, and she had had an accident and had a broken nose. And every time she came to visit him, he couldn't take his eyes off of her face. And so he wrote this tribute to her, which at one point and I'll paraphrase it, but it's fairly close. The girl with the broken nose is the most beautiful. The flaw is beauty.